Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being the heroes that are actually working on Martin Luther King's birthday like we are. So I appreciate the fact that you're on this call and actually moving ahead even when a lot of your cohorts are not. So appreciate that. So that you see on your screen here that we have the 5Q Advanced Sales Training. So the next one is February 20th and 21st. So we'll be doing these quarterly. And we did one last quarter. We'll do one this one, and then we'll do another one here late spring, early summer. So this is a great way for you to really get a handle on how the disclosure meeting works, the advisorectomy works. Because what we do is I and Jeff teach for about a half hour, and then we break into small groups, and we work on that skill for the next, say, hour, hour and a half. Then we teach for a half hour, then we go break into small groups, and we work on that skill for an hour, hour and a half. So when you leave, you're going to be much more attuned, not at scripts, because we do not work on the scripts. We work at how to deliver, to how to ask questions without the client getting saying, hey, what's your point? So we work on the little getting on their sides that we're supposed to do after when we're asking questions. We work on how to deliver these scripts so that the client says it themselves. So we look. It's much more the skills and not the scripts. Actually, we won't be working on scripts at all. It's all the skills. So when you leave after that day and a half, you're going to feel much more in command of what you're supposed to do. So our top performers come back to these. We've had top performers come back to advanced sales trainings 5 times in a row. Because and why would a top performer come back 5 times in a row? Because these are skills that every time you do it, you get better. You cannot just learn a skill. What do pro baseball players do? They go to skills camp every single spring. What do football players do? They go to skills camp every single fall, and they learn how to tackle. They learn how to block. They learn how to pass. They learn how to catch. These are things they've been doing all their life, and they're the best people in the world, and they still go back and work on those skills, and that's what the advanced sales training is for. So we conduct that the same way we do our other trainings, which starts at 2 o'clock on a Thursday, so you can fly in Thursday morning, and then we work till 8:30 at night, and then we start at 8 in the morning on Friday, go to noon, and you're done. So you can fly out on Friday afternoon. So you can fly in Thursday morning, fly out Friday afternoon. So there's no charge for this, no cost, so we would love to see those of you that want to work on those skills. And like I said, that's what's going to bring bring you up to the next level. So I hope to see you there. And with that said, today's call is about getting all the money. So Jeff is going to talk about that, and then Kyle is going to chime in about suitability and how we can work within the suitability rules to bring in much larger tickets. So Jeff, take it over there.
Sure. So like Mike said, what we're going to talk about today is how you get all the money. We're going to kind of look at what you have to do to get to a point where you're virtually guaranteed all the money, and then we'll talk a little bit about the logistics of actually moving all the money. So let's start by talking about kind of what you have to do to set yourself up to get all the money. And I always like to start this conversation with asking the question, what makes the perfect client? And I think actually the definition of the perfect client is pretty easy. It's someone with lots of money who doesn't have an advisor. So again, the perfect client is someone with lots of money who doesn't have an advisor. So who would we be talking about when we're talking about the perfect client? Well, a lot of times when I talk to you guys, and I agree with you, the perfect client would be someone, for example, who has a big 401k that they need to roll over. So they don't necessarily have an advisor, but they are leaving their job, they're retiring, or they're being forced out. They've got this 401k that's sitting out there at the company, and now they have to move it and do something with it. And they come into your office, and we do a little dance because, wow, a 401k rollover, it doesn't get any easier than that. I mean, it's a guy with a lot of money who doesn't have an advisor. Also, it could be somebody who maybe sells their business. Like we always talk about, all their focus is in their business. All their risk is in their business. All their time is in their business. Their business is their investment. So when they go to sell that business for the first time, they have this big check in their hand, and they've got to do something with it, and they don't necessarily have anybody to do it with because, like we talked about, their business is their investment. They don't have a big portfolio and they don't have an advisor. So again, that's someone when they come into our office, if they happen to come and see us and they've got this big check in their hand and no advisor, we jump for joy. We think that's awesome. This is the perfect situation. A lot of times we might also run into somebody who moves from out of state. So maybe if you're in Florida or Arizona or California, you might run into somebody from Michigan or Minnesota who decides that now that we're retired, we don't want to deal with the snow, and they move out of state. And they think, you know what, we've been working with a guy back in the Midwest for all these years, but we can't have an advisor who's 3,000 miles away. We need to find somebody local, somebody we can sit down with. And so that's also someone with a lot of money who doesn't necessarily have an advisor. They need to change. So that's the perfect client, someone with a 401k rollover, somebody who sells their business, someone who moves in from out of state. And to a certain extent, I would almost say referrals can sometimes fall into that category, and that's why we like them. They decide that they can't work with, or the person that they're working with can't solve the problem that they have, so they start asking their friends, well, who can we go see? And their friends say, well, I know a guy. You ought to talk to Jeff, or you ought to talk to Mike. And so they come in with money, but really no clear-cut advisor to solve that problem. Otherwise, they wouldn't have solicited a referral from their friends and come in to see you. So that's the perfect client. And what makes them perfect, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer, is the fact that they have a lot of money. And we're not looking to work with people who don't have a lot of money and they don't have an advisor. Now, we're not necessarily talking about a do-it-yourselfer, because a do-it-yourselfer, he's his own advisor. We're talking about somebody who has money and is kind of what I call homeless. And when they don't have that advisor in the picture, we aren't in any competition. And when we don't have competition, let me ask you this, how easy are they to sell? I mean, they're very easy to sell. I mean, you can sell them a mutual fund, you can sell them an ETF, you can sell them an annuity, you can sell them life insurance, you can sell them anything. There is no competition, and they're looking to you for answers. They're a lot easier to sell when there isn't anybody else in the picture. And how much more do they move? And when there isn't anyone else in the picture, they're looking to move everything. They're looking to do something with all of their 401k, all of the money that they have from selling their business, all of the money that they had with the other advisor when they moved from out of state. So they're a lot easier to sell, and they tend to move a lot more money. And again, why? Well, it's because they have to do something. There's no one else to do anything with. And they kind of have to do something now. You know, they've got to do something with the 401k, and they have to do it within the next few weeks. If they've just moved from out of state, they're looking for somebody that they can move to and settle into now. If they've got this big check from selling their business, they're looking to do something with it now. So, you know, we've been talking about 401k rollovers. We've been talking about people who sell their business. We've been talking about people who move from out of state. But there's an obvious problem. See, when you start to go looking for those people, you immediately become aware that there are actually a couple of problems. Number one, there just aren't a lot of them. I mean, we're talking about a very, very small group of people. There are a lot of them in any given area at any given time. You know, in a way, like I said, they're kind of homeless. But there aren't that many of them in your area. There just aren't a lot of people that are rolling over their 401ks in Rochester or Minneapolis in any given week. There just aren't a lot of people selling their businesses looking for something to do with it. There just aren't a lot of people moving in from out of town. So there just aren't a lot of them. And in order to get in front of them, you kind of have to carpet bomb your territory every month, because you don't know for sure when these things are going to happen. Sure, people are going to leave their jobs and have these 401ks. Sure, people are always moving. Sure, people are selling businesses, but you don't know the day that those things are going to happen, and so to be out there and to be in front of them and hopefully have a chance, you've got to do a ton of marketing. You've got to more or less carpet bomb that territory. So that's the first problem. The second problem is the same. Again, there just aren't a lot of them in any given area at any given time. See, it's a special circumstance that makes them temporarily homeless. They don't plan on being homeless, and they're not going to be homeless for long. That guy with the 401k, he's moving soon. He's not going to be homeless for long. That business owner with the check, he's not going to be homeless for long. That person who moved in from out of state, they're actively looking. They don't intend to be homeless with these accounts for very long. So not only do you have to carpet bomb your territory to find them, but you pretty much have to carpet bomb your territory every single month because you're relying on timing. You're just going to have to take care of these things. You're going to have to carpet bomb your territory every month to have any chance of finding these people or being in the right place at the right time. And even if you were willing and able financially to do something like that, you still end up on what we call this marketing treadmill. So what's that marketing treadmill? Well, that marketing treadmill is that treadmill that I think all of us have been on at one time, where you market, 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 and you start pushing people through the pipeline. And people start coming through the pipeline, but because you're having to do so much marketing to get those people into the pipeline, what you find out is you're making sales. I mean, to a certain extent, marketing is in fact a numbers game. The more you do it, the more people you'll see. And you'll start to close more cases. The more people you see, the more opportunity you have to close. So yeah, to a certain extent, it is a numbers game. The more you push into the pipeline, the more that comes out, and the more sales you eventually make. But what you find when you start doing that, if you're having to rely on timing and carpet bomb that territory, is, yeah, I'm making sales, and I'm making money, but I'm spending an awful lot of money to get them in my office. In fact, after you subtract my marketing costs and my overhead for the office, I might be making 60, 70 grand a year. So, and I'm working like a dog to make that, to crack that nut, to pay for the marketing, pay for the overhead, and then just have a little left over to make an okay living. So that's that marketing treadmill. There's no way off of it. Really the only way off of it we're going to talk about today is get in front of people with more money or move more money, close bigger cases. Those are the only two ways to get off that marketing treadmill. And I think everybody understands what it is. Everybody's been on it at one time or another. So here's the interesting thing. If you've ever heard of Investment Advisor magazine, they work with they're kind of a magazine for independent advisors. But they conducted a survey of financial advisors. They conducted this survey last year. And they asked two questions. The question they kind of pulled people, the questions they pulled people on were, how do you market to find new clients? And how often do you do it? Well, they were kind of shocked by the results. Here were the results of the poll. Nearly 70% of advisors do no marketing whatsoever outside of soliciting referrals. That means that only about 30% of advisors do any kind of marketing at all. So if you take seminars, lead cards, concierge marketing, newspaper ads, drip, you combine that all together, only about 30% of people are doing even one of those things. 70% of people never do any of those things. Their idea of marketing is just asking the few clients that they have for referrals. That shocked Investment Advisor magazine. That doesn't necessarily shock me. Now you guys are in the 30%. That's why you're on. But I talk to a lot of people who call in asking about the system, And when I ask them how they market, they tell me, well, I've been working mostly on referral for the past few years. That probably 3/4 of the people I talk to that are inquiring about the system say that. So I guess investment advisor is probably right on target. There aren't a lot of guys doing any marketing whatsoever. And you could ask yourself, well, why? I mean, marketing is kind of the lifeblood of this business. As an independent financial advisor, if you don't market, you're dead. So why are 70% of the people just laying down and not even trying? Well, I think we kind of know the answer to that. I mean, marketing's getting more expensive. And I don't think there's anybody on the call that would say, well, marketing's just getting cheap. And I don't think there's anybody on the call that would say marketing's getting easy. It's not cheap. It's not easy. I mean, I always hear that response rates are going down, 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 down. Not just to seminars, but to everything. Response rates are going down. And even the people, even when we do get responses, the people that do respond, they're way less than perfect. If the perfect client is somebody with a lot of money, well, these people that I'm getting don't seem to have a lot of money. And they have advisors. They're typically their own advisor. I'm seeing a lot of people with no money, a lot of do-it-yourselfers, engineers that are just looking to do things themselves and kind of pick my brain for a few ideas, and I'm spending a lot of money and a lot of time and really hard to get in front of people that don't have any money or who don't want to do anything. They just want to pick my brain and do it themselves. And for all those reasons, most advisors have just given up. They're not willing to do any kind of marketing anymore. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't mean that the people you want, those 401k rollovers or those business owners or those people who are moving in from out of state, they're out there. It's not that they aren't out there and that you won't run into them. It's just that there's nothing you can do to systematically find them or get in front of them every single month. You know, we call these people and make a great presentation on these people about calling them shooting stars. Call them shooting stars because if you wanted to see a shooting star, I mean, if you go outside and you look long enough and you go out there often enough, eventually you're going to see one. It's just that you can't plan to see one. You can't go out in the backyard with your son and say, okay, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, from 7 to 7:30, we're going to go out and we're going to find ourselves a shooting star. It doesn't work that way. If you want to see a shooting star, you're probably going to have to go out there and camp every night for the better part. You could be out there a month before you see a shooting star. And that's kind of how it can be with our marketing. I mean, if we're looking for people with no advisor and lots of money, those 401k rollovers, those people who are moving in from out of state, those people that are selling their business, we can market and market and market and market for months before someone would walk in. See, there's one thing I want you to get from this call. It's that you can't find the perfect clients. You can't just go out looking for them and find them. You're not going to find the people you want by marketing. That's the bad news. But here's the good news. While you can't find the perfect client, you can make them. And that's the thing I want you to take away from this call. Marketing isn't necessarily going to solve your problems. You're not going to find the perfect client by doing marketing. Like we said, you'd have to carpet bomb your territory every month just to get in front of those few that would put you on that treadmill, keep you in the game, but never get you off of it. So marketing's not going to solve your problem. You're not going to be able to market enough to find enough perfect clients to make a go of it, but you can make the perfect clients. So let me say that again. You can't find the perfect clients, but you can make them. So here's the analogy that I like to use. When I graduated from college, you know, people don't necessarily find jobs the first 3 months out of college, and so I'm working in waiting tables at restaurants, and there's a lot of actors. There's a lot of theater people that wait tables. That's kind of how they make their living because there aren't a lot of jobs. There aren't a lot of acting gigs. And Denver's a good-sized city, but it's not New York and it's not Los Angeles or it's not even Chicago when it comes to theater. Sure, there's theater, but there aren't a lot of parts. There aren't a lot of roles for actors. So here's their dilemma. There's a lot of people who want those roles, those parts in those plays, but there just aren't a lot of them. So how do they keep themselves busy, or how do they get their names out there, or how do they make a living as an actor given that that's the circumstance? Well, here's what they do. They produce their own plays. They get together with their buddies and their friends that are trying to be screenwriters or playwrights, and they have them write a play. And they rent a little theater space, and they produce it themselves, and guess who they cast for the parts? Themselves. They make their own acting parts. They make their own roles. They make their own work. They make their success. See, they know they're not going to go out. You can't just audition and audition and audition. If you're good, are you eventually going to get a part? Sure, but it's going to take a really long time, and in the meantime, you could end up starving. So instead, what they do is they make their own luck. They make the parts that they star in. So in our business, how do you make the perfect client? If you can't find them, but you can make them, how do you make the perfect client? Well, you take someone who has money, but they have an advisor, and you turn them into someone with money without an advisor. That's the very definition of the perfect client. You take somebody with money, they might have an advisor, but you turn them into someone with money who does not have an advisor. See, like we talked about earlier, there aren't a lot of homeless people when it comes to their portfolio. Most people have a home. Whether it's Fidelity and Vanguard or some guy at Ed Jones or Morgan Stanley, they have a home. There just aren't a lot of homeless people out there, and their homelessness is temporary. Even the guy who finds himself temporarily homeless because he has to leave his company and move his 401k isn't homeless for very long. That business owner isn't homeless for very long. That person who moves out of state isn't homeless for very long. People who have money aren't going to be homeless for very long. But the good news is there are a lot of people who aren't homeless. There are a lot of people who have advisors that are out there. So we just opened up. We went from a very, very, very tiny segment of the population that we had to carpet bomb our territory with marketing constantly just to find them, like trying to find needles in a haystack, to saying, you know what, rather than trying to find a needle in a haystack, why don't I just work with the haystack? I mean, I don't have to search and search and search hoping I'll find that shooting star. Why don't I just open up my practice to all the stars in the sky? And when you open up your practice and you're going to start intentionally bringing in people with an advisor, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of opportunity. Now you don't have to do all that kind of crazy marketing to find that needle in the haystack, because you're just looking to get the haystack to come in and see you. So the great news is you guys have a lot of tools. I'm just going to single out Outside the Box 2014 as one of them that puts you in front of people with money who have an advisor. Now, this call isn't about how Outside the Box does that. We've talked about that many times. We leverage fun instead of learning. I'm not going to spend any time talking about that. I just want you to be aware that the system, the mechanism for getting all those people in is available to you, whether it's Outside the Box 2014, whether it's one of the many lunch and learns we have, whether it's the drip that we do, whether it's the property casualty system that we give you all kinds of ways to market to people with money who have an advisor. That's a big universe of people. So you don't have to carpet bomb your territory, and you don't have to necessarily do it every month either. You're not looking for those needles in the haystack anymore. You're bringing in the haystack and you're going to make them into the perfect client. So you've got a way to get them in, but you've also got a way to convert them and turn them into somebody that's the perfect client. You're getting people with money who have an advisor to come in, and now you're going to turn them into somebody who has lots of money, and we're going to remove the other advisor. That's what the 21-point checklist is for. See, the 21-point checklist is really the secret sauce. We want them to fire the other advisor. And when they fire the other advisor, look what I just created. Someone with money who doesn't have an advisor. They're homeless. Now, do they want to be homeless for long? No, they don't. That's the great thing about them. You know, like we talked about, when you run into that person, how easy are they to sell? They're real easy to sell. And they're open to anything, mutual funds, stocks, ETFs, annuities, life insurance. They're real easy to sell. And how much more do they want to move? They want to move everything. And when do they want to move it? Well, they want to move it now. We've turned them into the perfect client, somebody who has lots of money, someone that no advisor, we're not in competition, and they want to do something now. They want to get it done by the end of the week or the end of next week, as quickly as possible. So the 21-point checklist is that secret sauce that gets them to fire the other advisor. Now here's the question. Why would anyone want to fire the other advisor? And I hope I'm not saying something that's going to come as a surprise to anybody. Guys, they don't want to fire the guy. Do you get that? They don't want to. They don't want to have to fire the other guy. The reason they don't want to have to fire the other guy is it's a hassle. If they fire that guy, they've got to move all those accounts, and that's not going to be easy. At the very least, it's going to be a lot of paperwork, and it may even be some time, and it's something that I'm going to have to follow up with and check up on. It's just it's a hassle, and people don't like hassles. And it's a confrontation. They have to go and tell the guy that they've been working with all this time that, hey, I'm sorry, but I don't want to be your friend anymore. It's a hard conversation to have. So because it's a hassle and because it's a confrontation, they really don't want to have to fire the other guy. But what can we do to make them want to fire the other guy? And I want to talk about first some things that we've tried that don't work, and then look at the thing that does work. See, we tried solutions. We tried to say, you know what, you ought to work with me, you ought to fire the other guy because I've got this great solution for you. I've got a great life insurance solution or strategy that'll make you lots of income tax-free in retirement. Or I've got this great annuity that'll give you income in retirement guaranteed. Or I've got this great money management platform that never goes down even when the market tanks. Look at this guy's track record. Well, solutions don't work. Why don't they work? Well, remember who we're bringing in to the office. We're bringing in people with money. 2014, think outside the box 2014, those lunch and learns, that drip, all those tools, that property casualty, they're all putting you in front of people with money. And people with money, they've got it pretty good. I mean, they've got good assets, they've got good incomes, they've got no debt. So, you know, life's pretty good for me right now. I kind of go out to eat when I want, where I want. I do what I want, when I want with the grandkids. We've got a nice life. So, is it perfect? Are we doing everything perfect? No, we're not doing everything perfect, but it could be a lot worse. And the only way we could really screw this up is by making changes. These solutions that you're talking about, these strategies that don't lose money when the market goes down for income, I mean, they're good, but, you know, we've got good income, and we're actually doing pretty good. And so, I don't know. And when people are on the fence and they're not sure, what do they end up doing? Nothing. They don't do anything. So that's not going to work for you. And even if they did do something, because they're looking at making a change, they're going to run it by their guy. You didn't give them any reason not to. They like you. They like him too. So they're going to ask him, what do you think about these solutions? And what's he going to say? Either, well, I don't think these are good ideas, or I can do that too. And the reality is, guys, we all know we're a commodity. He's licensed the same way we are. He can do it too. So that's not going to work to get them to fire their guy. First of all, they don't want to fire their guy, so if they don't have to, if they can get your solution without firing him, they will. Then we tried mistakes. We thought, well, how about this? You should work with me because I'm better than he is. He makes all kinds of mistakes. We call that beauty pageant mentality. I'm prettier. I'm better. I have better solutions. I don't make as many mistakes as he does. He makes lots of mistakes. I don't make any. But mistakes don't really work because, again, think about who you're looking for. People with money. People who have good assets, good incomes. They don't have a lot of debt. How many problems do they think they have? None. So when you come in saying, yeah, you've got all these problems, they don't believe that. And they certainly don't believe that their problems are big. Their problems didn't keep them from going to the steakhouse last night and ordering anything they wanted off the menu. Their problems didn't keep them from taking their grandkids to Disneyland last year. Their problems aren't keeping them from going to Hawaii next year to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. If you're taking their problems and trying to make mountains out of molehills, they start to wonder why. And the conclusion they draw is, you must want these accounts. Is that what this is about? You're trying to steal these accounts? See, mistakes aren't going to work for a few reasons. Number one, they don't think that they have any problems, that they're not making big mistakes. And quite frankly, they're willing to forgive a lot of mistakes because, hey, we're doing pretty good. He must be doing something right. And the other thing with mistakes is mistakes, 99.9% of the time, they're gray. Here's what I mean by gray. Have you ever been in a meeting where you say, hey, I could save you $4,000 in fee, and remember who we're talking about, people with money, the people you really want, the quote-unquote sophisticated client, and they say, well, $4,000, I mean, I get what you're saying, but we are making money, and $4,000 doesn't seem like a lot to pay someone when you're making money. It's a lot when you're losing money, but it's not a lot when you're making money, and right now we're making good money, and guys got to make a living. We start art, well, but does he need to make that good of a living? Well, but really, you know, why? What do you charge? We get off on these weird conversations that lead nowhere. They all head down a dead end. So if we're going to compete on a mistake, it's probably never going to be a number. Hey, look at all the money I could save you in taxes. Yeah, well, but I could get audited. No, but what if these were audit-proof? Well, what do you mean audit-proof? It just gets weird, dead-end conversation. It's probably not going to be timing-related either. Timing-related works better than a number. You know, we always say if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. People for the last couple, 3 years, how well have they been doing in the market? Real well. And a lot of us are trying to move money to safe things. So if you tell somebody, hey, you've made a lot of money, maybe we ought to take some of the chips off the table and stick them in the bank. I guess some people will think that. A few. Maybe 10%. The other 90% are going to think, oh, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know. Maybe we ought to just let it ride a little while longer. Hey, if everything turns south, maybe we'll come back and see you. But again, those are conversations that lead to dead ends. So it's not going to be a number. It's not going to be timing related. But in the course of trying to look for mistakes or use mistakes, we did discover that there is one reason, and it's only one, guys, one, that they will fire the other guy even though they don't want to. They will. And that one reason was disclosure. See, disclosure is not a number. Disclosure is, was this told to you? We're not going to argue about that. They're going to say, yeah, it was told to me, or no, it wasn't. That's black and white. There's no argument there. And it's not timing related. People don't want to feel like things are hidden from them, whether the market's down, whether the market's flat, or the market's up. It doesn't matter. It's never a good time for your guy to hide things from you. There's no argument there. People aren't saying, well, you know, the market's up, so I guess it's okay not to tell me things. They don't. It's not how it works. It's black and white. See, if they ever think that they're not getting the information they need to make good decisions, they start questioning whether or not they're working with the right guy. See, we're talking about them saying, you know, I might have to fire my advisor. They're not going to fire him because you have a better solution. They're not going to fire him because he makes mistakes. They'll only fire him if they think he's looking out for himself and hiding things from me. So how do you get them to say he's looking out for himself and he's hiding things from me? Well, you use the 21-point checklist, and we talked about the advanced sales training. The advanced sales training, the 21-point checklist is how you do it. The advanced sales training is how you get good real-time with practice at getting good at the 21-point checklist. So I'm going to tell you guys, come to the advanced sales training, and I know if you came once, you'd come again. Because this is how you get good at the 21-point checklist, and the 21-point checklist is the only way, the one way to get them to fire their current guy. So most of you have been through the 21-point checklist with me, so I'm not going to dwell a lot on it except to just give you a couple highlights of what we go through when we talk about the 21-point checklist. The 21-point checklist, at first, it's this right here. It's going to look like a list of things that are done wrong or need to be fixed, but we just talked about, will somebody fire their advisor because he makes mistakes? No, they won't. They don't want to have to fire him. First of all, they don't think they have a lot of problems, and second of all, they're pretty sure, based on the fact that they have a lot of money, good incomes, and no debt, that these problems right here aren't a big deal. Yeah, they need to be fixed. We can convince them of that, but it's not a fireable offense. So it's not going to be a list of things that are wrong or need to be fixed. You know, sometimes people get overwhelmed with this 21-point checklist because they think, wow, I've got to learn 21 conversations and things. That's going to take a long, long time. I'm not going to be able to keep it all straight. Guys, it's not 21 conversations. It's 21 excuses to have one conversation. So I'm not asking you to learn 21 conversations. We're asking you to learn one conversation. And that one conversation is, hey, did he tell you about that survivor? Had you seen a survivor's guide before? No. Are you glad you know what it is now? Yeah. Why didn't he show it to you? Hey, had anyone ever talked to you about powers of attorney the way I'm talking about them? No. Are you glad you know what to look for now? Yeah. Why didn't he ever go through this with you? Hey, has anyone ever talked to you about electronically filing your medical power of attorney? No. Are you glad you know how to do that now? Yeah. Why didn't he ever show you that? Hey, has anyone ever talked to you about the titling before the way I'm talking to you about it? Not the way you're talking to me about it? No. See, that's black and white. Are you glad we had this conversation? Yeah. Why didn't he ever cover it before? Same thing with beneficiaries. Did anyone talk to you about beneficiaries the way I'm covering them? Not the way you're covering it. No. Are you glad that we went through this? Yes. Why didn't he cover it with you? See, what they're going to end up telling you is some of these things he didn't cover with us because he probably didn't know about them himself. I guess he didn't cover the survivor's guide with me because he doesn't know about survivor's guide. He probably has never seen anything like this before either. Guess he didn't cover the power of attorney with me because, well, he's not an attorney, so it's probably not an area that he has a lot of expertise. I guess he didn't show me about electronically filing the medical power of attorney because he's probably doesn't know about those kinds of things. He's not, and doesn't brush up on things like that. That's just not what he does. So I guess he didn't tell me about those things because he doesn't know. Some of them they're going to say, well, some of these I guess he didn't care. I mean, he knows what umbrella liability protection is. He knows what titling is. He knows what beneficiaries are. That's part of his job. I guess he didn't tell me about those things because they're just not high on his list of priorities. They don't affect the money he makes. They only affect my family, so I guess those are the first things to fall through the cracks. He doesn't care. Some of them he doesn't know. Some of them he doesn't care. But then we get to these things that he doesn't want you to know. Yeah, he knows about fees, and he knows about asset weighting, and he knows about, I would assume he knows about risk and diversification. And those are things he is supposedly covering with me. But it's interesting that he's hiding things about that because he's afraid that if I saw him, the reason he's not covering them with me the way you're covering them with me is if I saw that, I wouldn't want those investments. And then he wouldn't make the money. See, he's worried about the money he makes. He's not worried about me. He's looking out for himself, not me. See, I'm using these things as excuses because if they really didn't like the investments and they changed the investments but they like their guy, they're going to change him with him. Does it do me any good to spend any time getting them to change their investments? No, I have to spend all my time getting them to change their advisor. And the only reason they'll leave him is if they think he doesn't tell them things, either because he doesn't know, which are the things at the top, he doesn't care, the things in the middle, or he doesn't want me to know, the things at the bottom, because he knows if I see these, I'll be pissed. And he's afraid if I get pissed, I'll yank the accounts and he won't make his money. All he cares about is the money he makes. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about my wife. He doesn't care about my kids. And all of a sudden, they start wondering, am I working with the right guy? Maybe the investments are fine, but the guy, he's got to go. They think they need to head for the exit. Not to leave their investments, because we haven't talked investments yet, but to leave their guy. And when they decide that they're going to leave their guy, what did I just create? I had somebody in my office who had money, the world by the tail, and an advisor. But I just created somebody with money, may even still think they have the world by the tail, but no advisor. And when we started this whole conversation, we said the perfect client was someone with lots of money and no advisor. I couldn't go out and market that for that person. I couldn't find him with my marketing, but I could bring in somebody with money and an advisor and make them into, with the 21-point checklist, somebody with money and no advisor. Now they're homeless. How easy are they to sell? How much money do they want to move? And how soon do they want to move it? Like we said, homeless people, when it comes to their money, aren't going to be homeless for long. They're going to move it, and they're going to move it fast, as quick as they can. See, it's actually easier this way. It's actually easier to get them to want to move all the money.
Hey, Jeff.
Because if they were going to just move part, oh, sure, go ahead, Mike.
No, again, a lot of guys, when they first do the 21-point checklist, it will not work, or it doesn't work the way we want to. It gets them to go to the next meeting because all they want to do is get the things that are wrong fixed. That's not going to get a client. So talk about what you want a client to say. If you interviewed him, if you did an exit interview with that client, what you want him to say.
Yeah, I often tell people, I wish I could stand outside your door, because this meeting is an hour and a half to 2 hours long, and I wish I could stand outside your door and interview your clients when they came out. Because I'd only ask them one question. I'd ask them, hey, you were in there a long time. You were in there for an hour and a half talking to, Eric or Mike. what'd you guys talk about? And if they said, well, we talked about all these things I need fixed, all these things that are wrong. My power of attorney might not work. I need to get that fixed. My titling is messed up. I need to get a form to fix that. My beneficiaries, I might be disinheriting my grandkids. I got to figure out how to unwind that. Sounds like it's going to take some time, and I'm paying too much in fees. Well, then I know you did it wrong. Because all they're worried about is fixing their problems. And their problems can be fixed by anybody. I mean, if they weren't fixable, we couldn't fix them either. They're fixable by anybody, even their guy. And they don't want to fire their guy because it's a hassle and confrontation. They don't want to have to do that. I haven't given them any reason to need to do that. But if instead I interviewed them and I said, hey, you were in there for a long time. What did you guys talk about? If they said, oh, we talked about how my guy hid things from me. He hid the fees that we were paying. He hid the risk that we were paying. He hid the fact that there was a way to pass our money on to our kids without going through probate. He hid a lot of things. I am really angry with him. Then I know you did it right. See, the key word there is hid. He hid, he hid, he hid. If you look at that 21-point checklist, I use these things. I might have a 10-minute conversation about the survivor's guide or a 5-minute conversation about titling. But that conversation, the first 4 minutes is fluff. The last minute of all the conversations of all those topics is, have you heard of this before? No. Everything up to that point is just so I can ask these 3 questions. Had you heard of this before? No. Are you glad that you know about it now? Yes. Why didn't he cover it with you? Everything rests on those 3 questions. Everything before those 3 questions is just fluff, just so I can get to a place where I can ask, had you heard about this? Are you glad you know now? Why didn't he cover it with you? Remember, the answer is sometimes, well, because he didn't know about it. Sometimes it's he didn't care about it. Other times is he didn't want me to know about it. That's when you know you did it right. When they start saying, my guy is hiding things because he doesn't know about them, doesn't care about them, or doesn't want me to know about them. So that's the key, those last 3 questions. If you don't ask those 3 questions, anything you talk about up to that point, worthless. Everything up to that point is just so you can ask those 3 questions. And like we talked about, it's actually easier to get them to move all the money. Because if they didn't move all the money, if they weren't going to move all the money, they have to go back to that guy. And if they go back to that guy, he doesn't, remember guys, he doesn't have to win. When you're in competition with somebody, possession is 9/10 of the law. He doesn't have to win. He only has to play you to a stalemate. He only has to get them to say, yeah, I see what you're saying. You're right. Yeah, that your point's well taken. So yeah, Mike had some good ideas. Jeff had some good ideas, but you're making some good points too. And so we don't know what to do. We'll just leave it alone for now. Here's the other reason, though, it's easier. You can't ever lose a client because of a product. See, they aren't moving because of a product. They aren't moving to get a strategy or a product or an income stream. And when they're not moving because of a product, you can show them anything at all or nothing at all. They're still going to move to you. Even if I showed them nothing at all, they're going to say, okay, what do you got? I got nothing. Ah, well, okay, we're going to leave our investments the same, but can you take them over? Do you see, even in that extreme where I say, I got nothing to show you. I just wanted you to be aware of what was going on. Oh, okay, well then, we just take over these accounts as is. See, if I'm going to depend on a product, I'll lose more people because of a product than gain more people. But when I'm not competing on a product, I'm competing on disclosure. They're going to move everything. Whether I show them a product or not, they're going to be open to any product, but even if I didn't show them any product, they'd still want to move to me. Do you get that? See, should you ever end up with a $20,000 or $30,000 ticket, if you're submitting $30, $40, $50,000 tickets on for people that have $200,000, $300,000, you know what that tells me? You're competing on a product. You're saying, I got a great product. Why don't you at least try it with a little bit of money? And you know what? The other guy, you're sitting there thinking, well, if I can get 50, I'll get the other 150 later. You know what the other guy is thinking? Well, he got 50, but I'll get it back. He's going to win.
He's saying they're darn well not going to get any more money.
You're not going to get any more. He's going to make sure you don't get any more. So your tickets should be big. The only reason that you might not be able to move all of the money is suitability. But you know what? That's what Jeff Van Grinsven and Kyle and Jerry are for at ECA. They can help you with that. They should be wanting to move all the money to you, even if you showed them no product. But you're going to show them some product, and so you should be getting big tickets because Kyle and Jeff and Jerry at ECA can help you with stability. So Kyle's going to talk, and when you can do that, the sky's the limit. When you can move all of their money and you can create perfect clients instead of trying to find them, the sky's the limit for you.
So guys,
Go ahead.
It's less work to write bigger tickets than to write smaller tickets. Do you get that? So can I see some answers to that? It's less work. Why is it less work to write big tickets than small tickets? Because you're writing big tickets when you remove the other guy out of the equation. When you remove the other guy out of the equation, you get big tickets.
Remember, guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, they're homeless. They don't have a guy.
That's easier.
That's easier. There's no product out there that will get big tickets. There's not a product that's come out. An insurance company has not come out with a life insurance product, an annuity product. A mutual fund company has not come out with a mutual fund or an ETF that will get big tickets. They've all come out with products that have advantages and disadvantages and work in a lot of different circumstances, and a lot of people probably ought to have some of their money in some of those things. But they've not come out with a product that will get you a big ticket. The only thing that gets you a big ticket is when they decide, I'm going to do everything I do with you.
Yes.
So I'm going to buy some of your annuities, I'm going to buy some of your life insurance, and I'm going to put some of my money in your other things, but I'm going to move it all to you. That's the only thing that gets you big tickets. No product will get you a big ticket. Only you making them homeless will get you a big ticket because they don't want to be homeless, and they're not going to be for long. They're going to move everything as quick as they can to you. So Kyle, maybe you can talk for a second about how you can help people when they start moving things as far as suitability with the insurance companies.
Absolutely. Can you hear me all right?
Perfectly.
Yep.
Okay, so over the last few years, one thing that we've really noticed is suitability being an issue. And when we take an application, it being sent back for suitability reasons. And one of the biggest things that we've seen is there's companies out there that say that you cannot have more than 65% of your client's funds into annuities, or 55%. Also that if you're transferring funds, that has to be at a 5% higher than what it's currently at. As far as
well, let me jump in there
value.
for a second. Let me just jump in there for a second and make one quick point. Guys, if you've got somebody with $500,000 and the insurance company is saying, hey, we're not really comfortable with them having more than $325,000 of that $500,000, 65% in an annuity, is that a problem?
No.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, even with those restrictions, we shouldn't be seeing any. If they have $50,000, it's because they should be somebody with $80,000 to their name. Because the insurance company is saying, we'll take 50. We won't take more than 50, but we'll take the 50. And if you're only seeing people with $80,000 to their name, use some of the, let's talk about your marketing. And remember, it's easier to do it the way that we're asking you to do it. It's easier for your marketing too. We're not asking you to find that needle in a haystack. We're putting you in front of people that can be made into perfect clients, and we're giving you the tool to make them. So now you don't have to market as hard. You don't have to spend as much. It's a lot easier. And believe me, in this environment, you're going to want marketing that makes perfect clients, because it's only going to get harder and harder and more expensive to try and find those needles in a haystack going forward. They're just not out there. Sorry, Kyle.
No problem at all. So one of the things that Jeff, Jerry, and I can do is make sure that when you have your client, that we let you know that this carrier, will only take 65%, or this carrier only takes 55%. We can do a preliminary application and get acceptance from the insurance carrier ahead of time. We could do a lot of items, so that what you don't have to do is go back to your current or to your client and say, I'm sorry, the client won't take your money. The company will not take your money. So please utilize us when you come up to these cases. So we've all been burned. I tell you, it's happened so many times where the company won't take it, but we can prevent that. And Jeff and I have definitely learned the rules of each carrier and how we can go about and work with the carriers. And like what Mr. Freeberg just said, if a company is saying, hey, we only take $325,000 of the $500,000, that's not a bad day.
And you guys are very creative, Kyle. I mean, if they have a client, they should run it. They should never just assume they can only pull out 10%, right? They should at least run it by you or Jeff and say, this is what I got. What can, help me develop a case that will help the client and help myself. So, I mean, and you'll help them walk through the jungle of all the rules out there to help the client, and also to create a ticket that's going to be a lot bigger than a 10% withdrawal.
Absolutely. And one thing that I always hear is, well, it has to be all or none when you're moving business. And with non-qualified money, it's completely different than qualified money as far as the rules are concerned. But where is there more money, qualified or non-qualified?
Qualified.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So please give us a phone call, and we can help you get these cases taken care of. We know the rules. We know what the regulations are. We know the forms. We can help you out.
Because how many times after the fact, Kyle, have you heard, after you see a $50,000 ticket come in, and then you say, well, where did this come from? And then they say, well, that's all I could get. And then you look at the case, and you're like, dude, that's a quarter of what you could have gotten. And by then it's too late, right? Because then you have to circle back to the client and say, wait, I made a mistake. We should have. No, it's too late. Do it before. Do the case development with Kyle and Jeff Van Grinsven involved, because don't just settle on $50,000 and find out you could have wrote a ticket for $200,000.
It happens all the time, probably 90% of the time. And so either everybody in that city has $50,000, or that's all you feel comfortable moving, or they have $500,000 and you do a 10% free withdrawal.
Well, that's
we
crazy.
get a lot more money.
Right, that's crazy. Because you did all the work to get to that point. Why write a ticket for 50 when you could write a ticket for 200? And as Jeff Freeberg pointed out today, you're going to get all the money anyways, so they're going to listen to what you have to say. Because if they have no home, they're homeless. Of course you're going to say, where should I park this money? So thank you guys. Kyle, thanks. So don't assume anything about product until you've talked to Kyle or Jeff, and they will help you write much bigger tickets. And Jeff Freeberg, great job explaining why we get all the money today. So thanks, everybody, for being on the call. Thank you, Jeff and Kyle. And then we'll talk to you all on Friday. Have a good week, you guys.
All right, take care, you guys.